So last night I noticed there was a whole batch. Yeah, hang on. I have to go back because there's someone coming. There was a whole batch of dinghies in the little area near the crane in the boatyard. Loads of them, all numbered. You'll have just seen that clip, hopefully. And I thought, okay, tomorrow the lorry's probably going to come. And guess what? There it is. Where are you? There's the lorry. Alright. So I'm going to go and wander over there and just see if it's the same truck. Alright, today we're going to try and follow it. There it is. The lorry is leaving. But that is the lorry, basically, with all the dinghies on it. And if my idea is correct, that lorry is going to France. That's the lorry. Okay, so I'm going to prove it. Right, so that is getting on a ferry. Where to? That's the question, look. Okay, can you see the number plate? Oh, come on. RX68 YKA. Alright, that's it. Boom. Okay, I'm inside. I saw the lorry. It was just the other side of that fence. I'm now going to drive round. Now, what is it doing? Hiding there. There it is. There it is. RX68, there's a driver in it, so he's going to see me doing this. And I don't care. There's the number plate. RX68 YKA. This lorry is getting on a ferry. So the dinghies come into Dover, they get loaded onto a truck, they go back to France.
In recent weeks, footage circulating on social media has fueled a wave of suspicion and frustration among critics of Britain's border policies. The videos appear to show the very same inflatable dinghies used by illegal migrants to cross the English Channel being towed not into secure disposal yards, but back out to sea, and in some cases reportedly toward France. For those already angered by the scale of channel crossings, this imagery is a political lightning rod. The immediate question is obvious. Why aren't these vessels being destroyed on arrival in Dover? Cutting them up on the spot would make it impossible for traffickers to reuse them. Yet, under current procedures, many of these boats are preserved as evidence for ongoing investigations, a process that can take weeks or months. Officials argue that destroying them too early could compromise prosecutions against the smugglers who organize these dangerous crossings. Still, that legal rationale does little to calm public outrage. The optics are terrible. Vessels linked to human trafficking seem to be leaving British ports intact, prompting accusations of catch and release in maritime form. Critics on the right say it feeds the perception that Britain is failing to take decisive action to secure its borders. The Home Office has not publicly confirmed whether these dinghies are formally returned to France or whether they are simply transferred between authorities as part of joint investigation. What is clear is that the cross-border management of channel crossings, governed by a web of bilateral agreements, remains murky, politically fraught, and highly vulnerable to public backlash. With record numbers of arrivals this year and growing pressure from backbench MPs, the government is once again caught between the optics of toughness and the realities of international law. Until ministers provide a clearer explanation, suspicion will continue to fill the gap. And every towed dinghy will be another symbol of a border policy that critics say looks increasingly adrift.
But whatever the minister says there, it sounds like they're very late to the party.
Yes, that's one of the biggest questions that leaps out of your interview there. And why did it take so long? And indeed, has this been cleared by Lord Hermer, the human rights obsessed Attorney General? Will this actually get off the ground is the biggest question, really, because there will be appeals, and we are still members of the European Court on Human Rights. and we'll abide by their jurisdiction on that. So it'll be interesting to see the next step. Will anyone actually leave who has been locked up in this country for the country they came from?
I mean, you can almost anticipate the feeding frenzy that it's going to be for lawyers. Yes, well, this is the mainstay of their income at the moment in Britain is illegal immigration and trying to keep people here. I mean, look, what we have here is a government which is plainly running scared of the success of the Reform Party led by Nigel Farage in making this the issue of the moment, and indeed of the year, and will be for the 4 years till the next election. The government is desperate to do something, but absolutely enmeshed in its own limitations, which are put upon it by the human rights laws that it is a slave to. There is no way, I think, that they're going to simply reject all appeals that are going to be lodged immediately at the very first moment. They're going to have to go through them, and they are interminable, as we have seen in the past. And unless they bring in a new law, which I don't think they've indicated they are planning, we will have to go through the same machine.
What I can't quite get my head around is just, because it's not really being viewed in this way, is how much of a complete and utter U-turn this is. When this has been mentioned to ministers in the last year and said, you know, let's clear 10,000 people out of our prisons because we've got this huge backlog. We can't do it because it would not be justice for the British people. They've been dead set against doing this.
Absolutely, and that's why you can tell that this is an action of sheer panic because of the way that Nigel Farage is mopping up Labour voters, Tory voters and voters of all times, all ages, all classes. And mainly the issue is centred on the question of illegal immigration and especially the people coming across in boats.
When Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood stood before cameras this week and vowed that foreign criminals would be deported immediately after sentencing, she framed it as a bold reset of Britain's approach to law and order. But to political watchers, the urgency in her tone betrayed something else entirely, the unmistakable scent of panic. The announcement comes amid mounting public anger over high-profile cases in which offenders with no legal right to remain have served their time, only to remain in the UK for months or even years while deportation orders stall. Ministers have faced bruising headlines, with the opposition accusing them of running a justice system where punishment ends at the prison gates and deportation is little more than a political talking point. Trevor Kavanagh, the veteran political columnist, was blunt in his assessment. You can tell that this is an action of sheer panic. His point is hard to dismiss. The pledge arrives in the wake of a series of damaging crises for the government, from record prison, overcrowding to spiraling channel crossings, and risks being seen less as a carefully crafted policy shift and more as a frantic attempt to claw back public confidence. The logistical hurdles are formidable. Immediate deportation would require near flawless coordination between the courts, the Home Office, and foreign governments, not to mention robust safeguards to prevent appeals from bogging down the process. Past efforts to speed up removals have been hamstrung by legal challenges, lack of documentation, and diplomatic roadblocks. Without a fundamental overhaul of those bottlenecks, critics warn, Mahmood's words may prove no more enforceable than the pledges of her predecessors. For now, the Justice Secretary's promise will be judged not by its headline-grabbing rhetoric, but by the government's ability to turn it into reality. If the boats keep coming, the prisons keep filling, and the deportation flights remain grounded, this week's declaration could go down as yet another example of tough talk evaporating under the glare of political reality.